I'm Miss Melissa at the Oosterhout Free Library Book Bite series with the next installment of Goldie from the Puppy Place series by Ellen Miles, published by Scholastic. And Goldie is sniffing at the floor. Lizzie jumped up. That means she has to pee, she said. When she sniffs like that, we have to get her outside right away. Then we praise her for doing it outside. Charles scooped up Goldie and ran to the back door. As soon as he got outside, he put her down and watched proudly as she ran straight onto the lawn and squatted. "Good girl," he said. "You're such a good girl." Goldie didn't know why the boy was so happy, but it made her happy too. She ran to him, and when he picked her up, she licked his face all over. Charles and Lizzie spent the rest of the afternoon in Lizzie's room. Lizzie had her computer on and all her dog books out. While Charles rolled around on the floor with Goldie, Lizzie told him all about puppy training. The most important things for a puppy to learn are, she held up 3 fingers, where to do your business, how to get along with other people and dogs, and what your name is. She put 1 finger down for each thing. Goldie already knows her name. Don't you, Goldie? Goldie stopped chewing on Charles's foot just long enough to look up. Her eyes were bright and her ears were pricked up. Good girl, Lizzie smiled at her. So we just have to work on the first 2, housebreaking and socializing. Socializing is the word dog trainers use for making friends, Lizzie explained to Charles. Goldie already is learning how to go to the bathroom outdoors. She gets along well with people, so soon we should start having her meet other dogs, Lizzie said. Her mom and her brothers and sisters taught her a little bit about doggy manners, but she'll need more practice. Charles knew Lizzie was probably right, but he was having too much fun just playing with Goldie to think about training her. At the moment, they were playing a game where she pretended his foot was a big, scary monster. He kept very still while she bravely crept up on it. Then, just as she was about to pounce, he wiggled his foot and Goldie tumbled backward. The next time she crept up, he let her pounce and get the monster. She growled, "Woof, woof," tiny puppy growls as she wrestled with his sock, trying to pull it off his foot. After a few rounds, Goldie stopped suddenly, wandered over to the soft rug next to Lizzie's bed, curled up, and fell asleep. For a while, Charles and Lizzie just stared at her. She was so cute with 1 paw over her nose. Okay. Next, Lizzie said, we have to convince Mom that we're serious about finding Goldie a great home. But I want this to be her home, Charles complained. Lizzie sighed. Me too, she said. But for now, we're just her foster home, and that means our job is to find her the best forever family. Charles sighed. We can make a sign, he suggested. Lizzie was great at using her computer to make signs and birthday cards. She got right to work. How does this look? She asked a few minutes later. She showed Charles a sign decorated with a picture of a golden retriever. Perfect puppy needs good home, it read. The Petersons' phone number's at the bottom. It looks good, said Charles. Maybe too good. We don't really want someone to take her away, do we? He was still wishing they could keep Goldie forever. Charles, Lizzie said, I really don't think Mom is ready for a full-time dog. But if we do a good job with Goldie, it'll show her how responsible we can be. She looked at the sign again. Still, we don't want to give Goldie up too soon. She took out the word perfect. Better? She asked. When Charles nodded, she printed out 10 copies. Charles! Lizzie! Called their mother from downstairs. Time to set the table for dinner. They took one of the signs to show their mom and left the others in a pile near Lizzie's backpack by the door. Let's let Goldie sleep, Charles suggested. She's had a busy day. They tiptoed out of the room and down the stairs. Goldie woke up a few minutes later. She stretched and yawned and looked around for her people. Where were they? They had gone away and left her all alone. This was her chance to sniff and explore this fun new place. Goldie roamed all over Lizzie's room, discovering exciting new smells and tastes in every corner. Finally, Goldie wandered over to the door. There was a pile of scratchy, fresh new papers. Goldie had been wishing for something to chew and tear apart. These papers looked just right. She dove into the pile and got to work. "So," said Charles, when we went back upstairs after setting the table, there was Goldie, sitting in the middle of a huge pile of shredded paper. Charles laughed, remembering the "what did I do" look on Goldie's face when he and Lizzie came into the room. Goldie had destroyed every single one of the signs they'd made. But it didn't feel right to yell at her, and Lizzie said there was no point in punishing her after the fact. Charles was telling this story during sharing circle time at school the next morning. Usually he told riddles or knock-knock jokes, but this story was too good to keep to himself. Everybody was laughing. Mr. Mason laughed the loudest. "That's why my mom borrowed a crate from her friend," Charles went on. "You mean like a cage?" asked Mary. "That's horrible. She's a puppy, not an animal in the zoo." Charles shook his head. "A crate is different from a cage. It's a place where Goldie can feel safe, like a little cave, and it's more fair to her this way. She won't have the chance to destroy things when we're not there to watch her, and we won't have to get mad or punish her." Charles was trying to remember all the things Lizzie had told him about using a crate to train a puppy. He didn't tell Mary that he'd thought the same thing, that it looked like a cage when he first saw it. But when he saw Goldie walk in on her own and snuggle into the blankets they'd put inside, he understood. Plus, it would help with the housebreaking, since puppies don't like to make a mess in the same place where they sleep. But Charles didn't really want to bring that part up at sharing circle. Ben would just make a joke about puppy poo and everyone would start giggling. "Goldie is really smart," Charles went on. He knew he was using up more than his fair share of time, but he couldn't help it. "She knows her name, and she knows to come when you call her." "What if her new family gives her a new name?" Brianna asked. Charles frowned. He did not want to think about Goldie going to a new family. Lizzie had printed up another batch of signs, and he and his dad had gone out after supper to put some up around town. But Charles hoped that nobody would notice them. "I have a feeling that Goldie's name suits her perfectly," said Mr. Mason. "I think she'll keep it." Charles smiled again. "It is the perfect name," he said. "Once we got her cleaned up from the fire, her coat really was golden." Charles looked up at the clock. It was only 9:30. How was he going to stand waiting until 2:30 to see Goldie again? He wished he could be hugging her right that minute. "Goldie sounds like a terrific pup, Charles," said Mr. Mason. "Thank you for telling us about her. Does anyone else have something to share? Sammy, what about you?" Sammy was looking down at his hands. "Nope," he said. That was strange. Sammy always had something to share, even if it was totally made up, like the time he told about purple space aliens landing in his backyard. "How's your dog? His name is Rufus, right?" Mr. Mason asked. Sammy nodded, and suddenly Charles knew why Sammy was sad. Hearing about Goldie probably made Sammy feel even worse about Rufus getting so old and slow and boring. "Has Rufus met Goldie yet?" Mr. Mason asked. Sammy shook his head. Then Charles had a great idea. "Hey," he said, even though it wasn't his turn to talk. "Goldie needs to meet other dogs. It's called socialization," guessed Mr. Mason. "That's it!" Charles was excited. "It means that it's good for her to make friends." At recess, Charles and Sammy made plans for Goldie and Rufus to play after school. By the end of the day, Sammy seemed excited too. As soon as they got home from school, Charles and Lizzie brought Goldie to the little fenced-in park on the corner. Sammy met them there with Rufus. We have to let them start slowly," Lizzie said. She'd been reading all about socializing dogs. They were meeting at the park instead of one of their yards. Lizzie's book said it was important for the first meeting to happen in a place where neither dog was in charge. "Hey, Rufus," Charles said. "How's the big guy?" Rufus wagged his tail when he saw Charles. He didn't seem to notice the new puppy. Charles was holding Goldie in his arms. She struggled to get down. "Do you think Rufus is ready?" he asked Sammy. Sammy had Rufus on a leash, and Rufus sat down next to him. "Sure," said Sammy. "Let's see what happens when you put her down." Keep them both on their leashes, Lizzie said, as Charles put Goldie on the ground. Now let Rufus come over and sniff Goldie. He probably won't even get up, Sammy said. Boy, I hope Rufus shows some excitement. I know the kids are really sad about how the Rufus is acting. We'll find out this coming Wednesday from the Oosterhout Free Library.